Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. William Woods, and I am the Faculty Council Co-Chair here at Ashford University. I will be the host of this session, virtually meeting students where they are, UMA Facebook study groups on Facebook. Microphones will be muted for this presentation, but I encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. Also, keep your eye on the chat for a link to a helpful session feedback survey. Now, I'm pleased to introduce to you the Director of the Student Affairs at Ultimate Medical Academy, Melanie Hovland. Director Hovland?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you, Ashford, for having me present. So as he said, I'm the Director of Student Affairs at Ultimate Medical Academy. I have been in online higher education for 15 years now, so back in the olden days when it was just rearing up. And so for those who don't know, UMA is a nonprofit educational institution, and we train students for careers in healthcare and provide, one thing that we really pride ourselves is providing extensive services to help them academically, personally, and professionally. So I will be sharing one of the services we provide today, and hopefully it'll get everyone else's minds working to think, hey, maybe we can reach out to students in different ways. And we offer online as well as on-campus programs. We are primarily online. That is our largest campus. We have more than 14,000 students, 63,000 alumni, and 2,200 team members nationwide. So, all right, that's a little bit about me. So let's dig into UMA Facebook study groups. All right, so just a little overview of what we'll cover. So I will start out by talking about our learners, just to show you a little bit just about, where we are, where UMA is in terms of who we're reaching out to, because that then gives a little bit of insight into the next point, which is why were the groups formed. What was the strategy? What benefits have we seen? And then future directions, and then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for discussion and Q&A. I can't see the chat pod, or chat box. So if any questions pop up, then Charles or William, if someone could let me know that someone's asking a question, I have no problem answering them. So, and this is actually one of those times. So I am interested from those in the meeting, does your institution currently have a peer-to-peer tutoring service or a peer-to-peer tutoring team? Or, and then also, do you use Facebook or any other social media for outreach and or tutoring? And then any other kind of experiences, what have you experienced, and maybe even you as a learner? I would love to hear any of those experiences before we dive in. Let me trying to see if I can see the chat box, but
Yeah, I'm monitoring the chat for you, and right now we have Dr. Alan Belcher mentioned that he has some UMA grads in his class, and they're
awesome.
To your question, we do have a peer-to-peer tutoring service group here at Ashford University, CHAMPS, where students and faculty can both serve in a tutoring capacity, and then we also have external resources available to students 24/7 through a dedicated chat service and student services. And then as far as the Facebook, yes, Ashford has a Facebook page, and then each program, or each department, I should say, typically has a Facebook page where students and alumni and other groups can kind of meet to discuss key events.
Great, yeah, and I actually, I'm so glad to hear that you have some UMA grads in your class. One of my roles at UMA is to oversee the articulation partners, so it's always great to hear when our grads go to Ashford, because we just love working with y'all. All right, well, thank you for that background. So as I said, just to share a little bit about our learners, I know that we share a lot of the same kinds of demographics that Ashford does, but I know that there may be some other participants who are at other schools. So just wanted to share that UMA's learners are 90% or over 90% women, 32 years of age on average, 85% are raising children independently, 57% are employed. Many of them are returning to school after years or even decades. And then 44% are new to online. So, you know, whenever you see that, you get this picture of a very busy mom, stressed to the max, just, you know, trying to get everything done while working in school, raising kids. And then on top of that, new to online, and then even new to school after so long. And so, so whenever we see that person, we just, you know, I get overwhelmed just thinking about it. And I, you know, that's why I just have so much respect and applaud our students for really taking the time and the courage to even enroll. So that leads us into, why did we form these groups? And so, you know, the biggest goal for us was to reach students, first reach those who are, and I kind of jump into the last bullet, are seemingly unreachable. And as I said, you know, they're so busy that, you know, we have so many avenues of student support. We have advisors, we have just our standard tutoring, so a tutoring team that are employed by UMA. We have instructor office hours. We have a lot of different outreach based on performance data, so students who may be failing or who haven't logged in a while. So we are actively outreaching the students, but there are just, you know, those students who don't take advantage of the existing support. And, you know, I think back to the previous slide of those students who, you know, are returning to school after years and decades, and, you know, maybe in the past they didn't have the best experience in higher ed or even in high school and middle school growing up. And so they could be really intimidated to reach out to their advisor, to their instructor, or to the tutoring team, and, you know, maybe a little embarrassed to say, I just don't get it. And so that's really the group. Obviously, we want to reach all of our students, but that was the group that we just said, you know, we've got to find out, you know, figure out a way to reach that group of students. And so that's when we just started, you know, really brainstorming all the different ways that we could reach them. And so after going through a lot of different ways, that's when we did a lot of research on peer tutoring. And so I just wanted to show, these are just 2 articles. This one breaks down over 100 studies on peer tutoring, but I just highlighted the things that really jumped out to us on the peer tutoring approach. And it's accommodates diverse students within a classroom. This research found that. And so, you know, our students are not the typical, you know, college age student. We do have a wide range of students with, you know, all kinds of different backgrounds. And then the second bullet that's highlighted increases students' sense of control and responsibility for their academic achievement. And so that's a really big goal of ours at UMA, because there's, you know, this line that we're trying to find of, we want to provide all the support in the world and we want to help them as much as we can, but then also realizing, you know, they're going to graduate and they're going to move on to places like Ashford, hopefully, or to, you know, their jobs, and they need to take control of their education, of their future, and take responsibility for their academic achievement. And so we really loved that part of it too, is, you know, addressing, you know, the support, but also giving them an avenue to really take charge. And then in that last bullet, there were several studies that found that peer tutoring was actually in many cases more effective than just standard tutoring, by an instructor or by a grad assistant or something like that. So that's when we said, okay, this is the way we want to go. So what exactly were we aiming for? So I've talked, a little bit about that in terms of the concept, but what exactly were we aiming for? So we definitely wanted asynchronous, just because we know that our students are busy. They, have crazy lives. It's, even with our outreach strategies and outreach efforts, we still can't get a hold of them. So, so we know that it needs to be on their schedule, on their time. So that's why it was really important that we kept this tutoring asynchronous. We definitely wanted peer-to-peer. We hadn't ever tried peer-to-peer. And when I say peer-to-peer, I mean a student who has, and I'll get into the details in a little bit, but a student who has already completed and was successful in a course, or a recent grad, is then tutoring a student who is in the current course. So that's what I mean when I say peer-to-peer. And then in a discussion forum format, so just thinking about different ways you can do asynchronous, that's where we're like, okay, well, that's where they're comfortable. They're used to that in their classrooms, but this would be in a different platform, but similar format. And then I went into the why, but just to really, really drive it home. So peer tutoring programs are popular because many students prefer to ask another student a question. And so we found that, and I'm sure Ashford has seen found the same things. We would come across, especially our social media team, would come across just ad hoc Facebook groups that students had created themselves, and they were already doing this. They were already seeking out peer-to-peer tutoring. And so, so right there, we had our evidence of that's something that they want, and that's something that they're really desiring. And so, so that's why we, we're just like, we need to formalize this. Because not all students know that it's out there. We just, happen to find them. And so, so there was that. And then we saw an opportunity, though, that if we were to be the instigator of the groups, then we would have some kind of control. And I say some kind just because it was still very important that it was the peer-to-peer tutoring. So, and I get into this a little bit with the details, but and when I say we, I mean faculty, staff, we do not participate at all. We just oversee the group just to make sure that there isn't any conduct issues or cheating, scholastic honesty, everything's on the up and up from that perspective. But in terms of the content and helping each other out, it is strictly peer-to-peer. But having visibility into the groups was really enticing for us because we had visibility into the groups and we got to see what was going on, make sure that it wasn't a place where students were cheating. All right, so the strategy. So I'll break this down, and again, and I think I said this in the beginning, but my goal here is to share this strategy that we have used, and and really just get your juices flowing of, oh wow, like, I hadn't thought about tutoring in that way or reaching out in that way, and to really just encourage you to, think outside the box. And I know Ashford's so great at thinking outside the box. And so just thinking of different ways that you could help your students. And even if you're, not in like administration or staff, if you're faculty, maybe encouraging within your own classroom students helping students, and maybe there's a way to incorporate that into your course room. All right, so the strategy. So what we did was, and there was a lot, I could probably have like 10 slides on how we settled on Facebook, but there was a lot of different ideas, a lot of meetings. We met with a lot of vendors that do offer peer tutoring and different things like that. But a really big goal for us, and this was in the title of this presentation, is that we were meeting students where they already were. So where are they? They're on Facebook. And so we know that. We actually know that, and I don't have the exact number, but it's a little bit over 90% of our students have a Facebook account. So we know that they're on there. So obviously there's a downside in that 10% or a little less than 10% of the students can't participate in that, but 90% is a pretty awesome number to offer this for students. So we really liked that it was where they already were. They didn't have to log into a separate account. There were some options within the LMS where we kind of looked at a little bit, but again, we wanted it to mimic the feeling of an on-campus, hey, let's meet at the coffee shop. Hey, let's meet in, the dining hall. Just a more casual atmosphere. And we feared that if we had the peer tutoring sessions or peer tutoring discussions within our LMS, then it would take away a little bit from our goal, which is, really focusing on peer-to-peer interaction. So closed Facebook group, and we have it for each course. So there's, one for SC 1040, which is, biology, one for EN 1150, English. And so there's so we started out with a single group for each one. But then as we just were learning and growing the program, we did learn that there were a lot of courses that had similar topics. So for example, electronic health records, that obviously is a big topic for us. And so we decided to combine a few of the courses into one group because there was so much overlap happening in the courses. So we did end up doing that, but we started with one group per course. And then, so I talked a little bit about that first bullet, but the second one that I just absolutely love is in Facebook, it gives the students the ability to search past questions and answers. So I know I do this, I don't know about y'all, but I do this on like my neighborhood Facebook page, where if I'm looking for a plumber, I'll just type in the search box plumber. And then anytime a neighbor has talked about plumber, it comes up, so I don't have to then ask again and wait for an answer. So similarly, students can type in, Greenway, which is an EHR, and then anything to do with Greenway will come up, or, any kind of topic they can search that way. And then it slowly builds an FAQ for us that we can then use and say, okay, they're asking a lot about mitochondria, so maybe we need to clarify that in this course. And so that's been a really great side benefit for us. And then also Facebook sends alerts when there's a new post, so just saw a lot of value in that as well. So that was the creation of the courses. And then we identified potential tutor candidates by recruiting from this group called Student Ambassadors. So we have the Student Ambassador program, which is made up of students who have a 4.0, and they're involved with UMA. So they're kind of like our cheerleaders, and they will go to events, and they love UMA, they love being students there, and then they also succeed academically as well. So we pulled from that group and went through an interview process, and we'll continue to do that as we add more groups. And then our student affairs team are the ones who monitor the groups to ensure everyone is following the guidelines. So they're the ones kind of in the background, making sure there's no, code of conduct issues, cheating, anything like that. So once we decided on this general structure, we started with a 3-month pilot for one course to measure effectiveness, because we weren't gonna just right out the gate create 20 20 groups and then no one's interested. So we partnered with our business intelligence team to identify a test and a control group. And so it was very data driven. Like, we just really wanted to make sure that this was worth the students' time, that it was valuable, and then frankly was worth our time as well, because it definitely took a lot of time to build this. And so we just monitored it for 3 months, and we had data around students who joined the group versus students who didn't join the group. And then after 3 months, we evaluated that, and I'll show you the results in just a little bit, but it was great data, and that's when we decided to move forward with it. And then again, like I said, we identified the leaders of the group. The communication was pretty minimal, and it was from the study group leaders. That was also really important to us, because we didn't want it to come across as this UMA thing. We didn't want them to think that, it was UMA pushing it. It's, the whole thing of, if your mom likes it, then it's not cool anymore. Like, we didn't want to fall into that. So all of the communication comes directly from the study group leaders. And it's not a lot either, because that was the other thing. We didn't want it to turn into like we're spamming them or anything. We really wanted it to be this organic group that students were attracted to. All right, and then just some really minor details, but the moderators approved members, and they verified that they were in the course and all of that. If you have questions about the really minute details, please reach out to me, because I'm happy to talk about it. But again, biggest goal is peer-led. All right, so how did it go? So this was the data for the pilot. So 20% of students who we communicated to joined the group. The average GPA of those who joined was a 2.77, and that was one of my favorite data points that came out of this, just because it shows that it wasn't the 4.0 students who were joining. It was that group that we were trying to reach. And there were 4.0 students, which was awesome, because then they could, help with the tutoring. But it was just that I loved that we were really getting the students that we wanted to. And then really awesome news, 93% of the students who joined the group ended up passing the course. So again, just super encouraging. And so with the pilot, it was very manual. So me specifically looked up every single student to get that data. We automated it later, but whenever I looked it up, there were many students who were on like their first retake or second retake and were about to be dismissed from the program. So that was really awesome. And then we expanded. So because of that data, we added a new study group for each start. We now have up to 25 courses that have a study group. And like I mentioned, we got more sophisticated with the data. We track, and actually I'll go to the data slide. So this is our current data. So I don't know if you can see it, might be a little small, but yes is they joined, no is they didn't. So this light blue line are the submission rates. So as you can see, we have the students who joined the group have a 15% higher submission rate than those who weren't in the group. So meaning they're submitting work. And then this dark blue is the average risk score. So we have a way of identifying a student's risk. And so the students who joined had a 40% average risk score, and compared to those who didn't, which is 39. And this goes back to, these aren't our perfect students. These, aren't the student ambassadors joining. This is students the ones that we want to reach out to. And then this graph over here is the grade comparison. So the A's are 4 percentage points higher for those who joined, but then the really important ones is over here, the failure rate is 3 percentage points lower. So definitely a significant impact there. So future, possibilities, future directions, we are looking into synchronous tutoring. We have thought about live on Facebook or one-on-one, maybe scheduling appointments. Facebook Campus, I don't know if anyone has looked into that. We're starting to, but it looks like Facebook is accommodating institutions. So we're looking into that. And then I've actually worked very closely with Ashford in looking into peer-to-peer mentoring by learning a lot about CHAMPS. And so there's a lot of opportunity there as well. So I know we only have a couple minutes, but any questions? That's my Bueller reference discussion questions. I would love to hear from you.